Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1133, 1133, Saturday, May the 16th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, remember everyone to get your vote in at the comment section on this video for your pick for this week's Dumbass of the Week. Of course, last week we didn't have a Dumbass of the Week contest because it was Mother's Day and wasn't able to get to that. So we will be doing Dumbass of the Week. Be sure to get your pick in the comment section of this video. Dumbass of the Week. Let's go ahead and get to the breaking news of the last 24 hours. Okay, probably the biggest story is another fantastic move by Rick Grennell over there as the acting ODNI. He has now stripped the FBI of their authority to give intelligence briefings to political candidates. From now on, it will be the intelligence community who will conduct the intel briefings to political candidates. Man, I'll tell you, that's a direct slap into the face of Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray and the FBI in general. Very good move by Rick Grennell. And I assume that that would come from the ODNI as well, not just CIA, but probably he means the ODNI would, people from the ODI office, I guess, ODNI office, would perform those briefings, would be my guess. Because the CIA is certainly no better than the FBI. That whole group is corrupt as hell. So, anyhow, just you can see the effect that Grennell is having. The types of reforms he's putting in, releasing all these documents. He is very, very effective. And once Ratcliffe comes in, although I believe Ratcliffe will do a great job and be very effective as well, but I do believe they should certainly find a place for Rick Grennell to stay in somehow, in some capacity, doing a similar thing that he's doing now. Because this dude flat out gets results. Rick Grennell gets results. He is a courageous individual, by the way. Well done, Rick Grennell. I'm really starting to like this guy. Well. You know, the rotten reverend cannot keep her foot out of her mouth. And again, as I've said many times before, she has no political instincts whatsoever. And she literally is incapable of learning from her past failures. Or she's just so arrogant, she refuses to admit her past failures. And I think that's more likely the case. I mean, the deplorables comment alone, that one thing alone would have cost her the election. She did a bunch of things that cost her the election, but that one thing alone could have cost her the election. People in the very states she needed to win are the very people who would fit into her description of deplorables. So you would think that she would learn her lesson, but apparently not, because yesterday the rotten reverend tweeted out, armed men storming a legislature to disrupt its democratic proceedings is domestic terrorism. It cannot be tolerated. Armed men storming a legislature to disrupt its democratic proceedings is domestic terrorism. It cannot be tolerated. She's talking about these people up in Michigan who are protesting that crazy governor who is being protested by everybody up there. Not only that, hell, a large group of doctors just filed a lawsuit against her. Doctors in Michigan are filing lawsuits against her. She's doing some of the most unbelievable, tyrannical things I've ever seen a governor ever do. There's no way this woman gets elected. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to remove her, impeach her, recall her, whatever they can do. She is totally, she's way off the reservation here. I haven't looked at her approval ratings or anything. I don't know what they are. Maybe she's got a fan base. I don't know. I don't live in Michigan. But when you watch the videos and you see where a lot of problems are coming from across the U.S., it's mostly in these liberal cities where they have these liberal governors who are hell-bent on restricting people's freedom and their ability to make a choice for themselves. It's tyranny. There's no other way to put it. But the Rotten Reverend Clinton thinks that those people who showed up with weapons, and I know you've had various people comment and say it's not a good thing. Well, when you're facing tyranny, sometimes you need to send a message. Now, no one discharged a firearm. No one so much as laid a finger on anyone in the legislature, the cops, or anyone else. They just reminded these people that they are armed, and if you push us too far, keep in mind, we do have firearms. We will defend ourselves from tyranny, foreign and domestic. No, I would consider these people patriots, courageous patriots who did the right thing to send that message. Stop screwing with us. We have recourse. Remember, it's called the Second Amendment. It's why it was put there, for this very reason. But the Rotten Reverend Clinton calls these people domestic terrorists. Now, what do you think that she would do if she were president? She says it cannot be tolerated. The Rotten Reverend were president, she would probably be doing what Whitmer's doing in Michigan on a federal level. She would have all the states on total shutdown, lockdown forever. Imposing all kinds of tyranny, because that's who the Rotten Reverend Clinton is. Now, it's very likely that the Democrats are going to have to fall in line. And even Burisma Joe is probably going to have to defend this statement. And again, a statement like this coming from a high-powered Democrat like the Rotten Reverend, this is being passed all over social media. And so, in a way, she did Biden a tremendous disservice. And she just reminded all those people in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and places in the Midwest, she just reminded everybody, after 3 years of them probably starting to forget about it, she just reminded them why they didn't vote for her and why they likely won't vote for Biden. Because now he's got to carry that water too. Well done, Reverend. Thanks. Appreciate it. Speaking of the devil, Burisma Joe is over there on MSNBC. I keep wondering, every time you see this guy, you think it can't get any worse, and it just keeps getting worse. I don't really know how to explain some of this stuff that comes out of his mouth. So he's over there with that nutcase Lawrence O'Donnell on PMSNBC, and O'Donnell asked him about, people who believe Tara Reade or think they should consider believing Tara Reade, and what Biden has to say to those people who are Democrats, who see, they're Democrats, they want to vote for Biden, they're in for Biden, but they got Tara Reade over here, and it's kind of an issue for some of these people. So O'Donnell is asking Biden what his message is to these Democrats who want to vote for him, but also sort of looking at the Tara Reade claims. And Biden literally, this is like the third or fourth time he's done this, he literally tells O'Donnell, he says, well, if they believe Tara Reade, then they probably shouldn't vote for me. If they believe Tara Reade, they shouldn't vote for me. He literally said that. You can't make this stuff up. This guy literally said that. And that's about the fourth time he's told an individual, hey, if that's the way you feel, then don't vote for me. This is not a winning political strategy. This is not even a good politician. A politician never does that. A good politician would have given a waffly answer and immediately gotten off of that point and then went on to other points that they could find some common ground with that individual. Not Biden. No. He just said, if you don't like what I say, don't vote for me. Okay, I guess. This guy has no chance, okay? And I think the Democrats know it, and that's why I say I don't believe this guy is going to be the nominee. I've been saying that since before he joined the race. I've never changed my tune. I still believe Biden is not going to be the nominee. We'll know in a couple of months because the convention is coming up. How they pull this off, I don't know, but I'm having my mind is not able to process the fact that they are actually going to stick with Biden. If they do, they're in a world of hurt. But if they don't, they're in a world of hurt. I don't see where they have any way out. But I just can't imagine that they're going to go with Biden. It's very, very difficult. But it gets worse on this particular interview, because then O'Donnell is going to have Biden answer some questions from Democratic voters. Now, these are pre-recorded interviews with these people who are going to ask him questions. So Biden's not having a conversation with a live person. They're going to play a video clip of a previously recorded interview with a Democrat who has a question for Biden. So O'Donnell introduces his first question guy. It's some guy Democrat from California with a question for Joe. And as the individual is, giving his question, Biden continues to try to respond to him as if it's a live interview. Oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, yeah. I mean, Biden continues to try to respond to a pre-recorded interview with someone who's not even actually having a conversation with him. It's pre-recorded. So he keeps kind of cutting off and butting in because normally there would be like a place there where you'd interject and have a conversation. But this is not a conversation. It was a guy asking a question pre-recorded. But Biden is treating it as if it's a live, interview and that the guy's actually talking to him. He's completely clueless that this is a pre-recorded interview. Now, someone had to have told him that, but it doesn't add up. He just clueless. I mean, it's just hilarious, man. I mean, it can't get any worse. Well, here's something that's quite interesting that we saw yesterday from Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, on his Twitter. Another insane rant from him. And he's literally, in this Twitter post, he is praising Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray. Praising Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, saying that he's hoping that Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, who is a remarkable public servant, will continue to stay strong. What does that mean? It means continue to be a defender and a cover-up guy for the deep state, Mr. Potato Head and all his friends, and the corrupt people at the FBI. If John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, is praising you, you're probably corrupt as hell. And there he is, praising No Shit Sherlock Ray, which is why I've said, the day after the election in 2020, I think that'll be the very first move Trump makes, is to get rid of No Shit Sherlock Ray and look at him for some possible charges. It's covering up crimes. Covering up crimes is a crime. Even if you are the FBI director, you're not allowed to cover up crimes. Makes him an accomplice. Let's see, what else we got? Oh, yes. Well, we have some good news from a real patriot. Jim Jordan has requested from the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has requested that he turn over all documents related to Burisma, and specifically those documents which include Eric Sharamella. He's up to his eyeballs in the Ukraine hoax. Sharamella was up to his eyeballs in the Russia hoax. And he's up to his eyeballs in Burisma. Now, Ron Johnson's committee is getting ready to begin their hearings next month on Burisma. And so Jim Jordan, I guess, and his committee, which of course is run by Democrats, he can't really hold a hearing, but he can certainly request these documents from the State Department, which will show all these conversations, because keep in mind, Sharamella was on Biden's staff when all this Burisma stuff was going down. In the firing of that prosecutor, Shokin, Sharamella would have been in all of those meetings that came from the Biden team. The Biden team is what put together this, order that Shokin be fired, and Obama rubber stamped it. But that was all engineered and negotiated through Biden's office with Sharamella. And we can clearly see that Sharamella is sitting at the table with the 3 Ukrainian government officials, and the guy sitting next to Sharamella is the guy who was sitting next to Biden when he bragged about firing Shokin. Same guy. So Jim Jordan wants all the documents. And you'll find a lot more in there, including, I think if we can get really deep into this, you will find the documents where you have Sharamella likely, almost certainly, having meetings with Chalupa going back to 2016. Sharamella is up to his eyeballs in the Russia hoax, the Ukraine hoax, the coup in general. He was a key player in his position at the NSC and the CIA prior to that. Yep. We haven't heard the last of this guy, believe me. Well, we're now learning also, as people are now going back and reevaluating the testimony of Silly Sally Yates from back in the early winter of, well, I should say November of 2017, when Sally Yates did her testimony, and she talks about the fact that on the day that the two FBI agents, Strzok and Pietka, went over to set up General Flynn in that interview, that a couple hours after that interview, they were provided with essentially Pietka's overview of his written notes and possibly even his written notes. In other words, they were briefed that very evening on the day that Strzok and Pietka went over to interview Flynn to set him up. Later that same day, they provided a briefing to Silly Sally and her staff. Essentially, what Silly Sally got and what she was given was the original 302. If you want the original Flynn 302 with agents Strzok and Pietka, pretty much Sally Yates. The briefing notes from Pietka and a summary of sort is what was provided to her in a briefing along with staffers on the same day that they did the so-called interview, the setup. So everyone wants to know where that original 302 is. Well, if you can't find the actual physical 302, you can essentially get the next best thing to it. And in fact, there might have been an official 302 included in what they gave her, in which case it would be with Silly Sally. Now, for years, everyone's been trying to get that 302. Now, if we find out that Silly Sally has that 302 and she hasn't come forward with it, even though everyone's been looking for it, that could be a problem. But if you want to know what was in the original 302, it's time to talk to Silly Sally and her staff, who likely also were copied in on it. I mean, they probably have this in their records, in their files. If you can't find the original 302, I bet that's the closest thing to it. And I'm not suggesting the original 302 wasn't part of what they gave her. May very well have been. Silly Sally. She has a lot of questions to answer. Well, we've been hearing the name Susan Rice. Believe it or not, she is on the short list to be Biden's VP. She can get her ass kicked right along with Biden by Trump. So you can see how that feels. But I think that Susan Rice is likely going to be charged with crimes in the next, probably before the convention. I think that the first few major indictments are going to come down before the Democratic convention. Wouldn't it be funny if she were on the short list? And in fact, wouldn't it be funny if Biden named her, and after doing so, got a letter from Durham saying, "Hey, you may want to reconsider." Currently, there's a very good possibility that she may be indicted. You might want to select someone else, and if you do select her, just because she's your VP, we're not backing off of it. We will still indict her because we've now informed you prior. We've informed you before you actually named her We've informed you that you better not, because she is absolutely in the crosshairs of our investigation. And she said if she were nominated to be the VP, she would, be exhilarated, super happy to be Biden's VP. I guess. I mean, if you want to get your hands on the presidency, the best way is to be Biden's VP. This guy, even if he were to win, he wouldn't last more than a year. He'd have to, resign because of his mental faculties. But he's not going to win. He's not going to be the president. He's going to get destroyed, quite honestly. If, in fact, he even becomes a nominee. I'm not so sure he will. Maybe they're floating Susan Rice to make so that Biden can name her as his VP, and then when they get to the convention, they dump Biden, and Susan Rice becomes the nominee. That might be what they're thinking. Yes, and looks like the Penguin, Jerry Nadler, is threatening now to subpoena Barr to come and answer questions regarding the Flynn decision next month. I don't think he's going to have to subpoena Barr. I would think that Barr would love nothing more. When I watch Barr testifying in front of these liberals in Congress, he appears to be enjoying himself. I think he likes matching wits with half-wits like Nadler and Schiff. He probably is just a busy man and doesn't want to play their game. It's not because he's afraid of their questions, I can assure you of that. In fact, he would have probably the time of his life twisting these guys into pretzels, given the opportunity. So yeah, I hope they do subpoena Barr. I mean, they force him to show up. He'll show up, and they'll regret it. And of course, we know that the long knives are now out for Catherine Herridge. She's joined CBS, but the left-wing media and the Biden campaign have been on full frontal attack on Catherine Herridge. They're very upset. And what are they upset at her for? For releasing these or writing the story, and being the first one to get the list of names of people who unmasked Flynn, including Biden. Now, what's unusual about this is that they're attacking her when, in fact, she really didn't even write a story giving some opinion or making threats or accusations or what any of this even means. She simply said these documents were released today showing the names of people who unmasked Michael Flynn, and here they are, and presented the screenshots of the 3 pages of unmasking requests. It was not like she wrote a story, given an opinion or anything like that. She just released the documents that were declassified and given to the Congress for release. So they're attacking her for exposing the truth. What happened? Which just shows you, again, what type of people we're dealing with in the fake news. And of course now, as we have more and more evidence coming out, seemingly almost every day, it's become pretty clear. The evidence seems to point to the FBI, the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, under Jimmy the Weasel Comey. The evidence now points to the FBI as the first to unmask Flynn, and then the FBI, then disseminated that intelligence, if you want to call it that, essentially transcripts of Flynn's calls to Clapper, who then gave it to White House officials, who then gave it to the press. Now, the Washington Post continues to say that the source was a top administration official, or top government official. It's never really defined government, whether it was intelligence, FBI, White House, political, or whatever. Never really defined that. But it's now looking more and more like this is exactly what happened. It was from the FBI, got the stuff, gave the transcripts to Clapper. He briefed White House officials, would include, of course, Obama, Rice, Yates, and the others. And then somehow it gets leaked to the press, which means that this leak very well could have come out of the White House and certainly could have come out of Biden's staff, because on the same day that Biden did his unmasking request on Flynn is the same day that the story appeared, the damaging story. The first leak of it went to another reporter at the Washington Post who didn't write any story on it because he didn't see a story there. Flynn met with the Russian ambassador. Okay. It was only 3 days later, when Ignatius wrote his story, that he made it look like it was something criminal. And that was likely fed to him by someone, I think probably coming out of the Obama White House. It's probably why we never got the truth or even any real investigation into who leaked the Flynn-Kislyak phone call. If it was some mid-level person at FBI or NSC or something, they would have been busted by now. But the fact that this has been kept such a secret for so long tells me that it's someone pretty high up and very likely within the Obama White House. Everyone's thinking McCabe, Strzok, Brennan, Clapper. It may very well have come from Biden or one of his staffers, directed by Obama. Or it could have come from Obama. He could have told Valerie Jarrett to pass it down the chain. I think Durham is going to get to the bottom of who exactly it was. I mean, I don't know what kind of pressure he can bring on Ignatius, but I know that he could. I mean, that was a criminal leak. It's a felony, which means he can probably go back and get the communications of Ignatius. He might go back and get his emails, his phone calls from the period of that week, and can probably figure out who it was. I think we are going to get the answer to that question, and it may very well be a high-level Obama official. That's a serious felony, Mr. Biden. We also know a lot of these unmaskings that were signed off on by these ambassadors and people to Treasury and people like Biden, but that actual staffers are the ones who did the requests. And they just did the request and said, oh, here, put your signature on that. It's for unmasking. And oh, yeah, sure. That appears to have been what's going on. So it's not even these high-level officials who actually sign off as the one who wants the unmasking. They're actually even doing the unmasking. It's literally staffers that work for them going to him and saying, oh, yeah, we want to do this unmasking. Here, you sign up on that. Yeah, thanks. Man, you see how corrupt this is? Then, of course, they get Burisma Joe, who's clearly deranged, saying that if he is elected president, he will not pardon Trump. Why would he need to pardon Trump? Trump hasn't committed any crimes. He's been the victim of a lot of crimes, many of them committed by Biden and his boss, Obama, and their good friend, the Rotten Reverend, and a bunch of their cronies over at the CIA, FBI, and other participants. They're the ones who actually are going to need pardons, and now that we know that Biden would not pardon Trump, I'm sure Trump's taking note of that, because the day may come in the not-too-distant future where Biden himself might be looking for a pardon. It ain't going to be Trump. John Durham has definitely got these people's number. Take my word for it. If he can make the case, if he can make a case, and I believe he's working damn hard to do it, if he can make the case on these people, he will take them down. I'm certain of it. Now, when you get into the White House and you get, Biden, president, vice president, we generally don't indict presidents and vice presidents, former presidents and vice presidents. What he would likely do, though, is expose them for their crimes and send a referral to the Congress to take up possible impeachment hearings to see if it's impeachable offenses. But I think anyone below Biden is fair game. Lynch, Rice, all those people, Comey, they're all fair game. Obama and Biden Durham would probably refer them for impeachment. Yes, you can impeach presidents after they left office. But I think the most important thing in the case of Obama and Biden, not the other guys, they all need to go to prison. And I'd have no problem with Biden and Obama going to prison either. I'd love it. But but the most important thing with that guy and those two is just to simply get the truth out about what they did and how corrupt they were. And then impeachment likely would occur as a result of that. But they would be destroyed. Obama's legacy would be destroyed. And he would become a liability to any Democrat. Would have a rough time winning a national election with Obama. Obama would literally find himself being sort of out of the club. He would no longer have the stature he has now. He would live the rest of his life in shame. So, yes, I do believe it's coming. And, of course, now we're learning that Dan Jones, who, of course, was working with Podesta and some other ex-Hillary people, are now working with Confusion GPS. They're going to begin their campaign to derail the Durham investigation. Why is that? Well, because they know it's serious and it's coming for them. But it's not going to work. Barr and Durham are not, they're not who these people think they are. Barr and Durham are not afraid of these people. They really aren't. So you can go ahead, Dan Jones and Fusion GPS, and try to derail Durham and try to, say whatever you want about the man, but his reputation is stellar, especially in taking down deep state cronies and corrupt government officials. And if he was courageous enough to go after some serious mob figures, corrupt politicians in Boston, and things like that, this guy's pretty courageous. I mean, I don't think he's going to be deterred, and I don't think that you're going to. I mean, this is just an attempt to try to, in a way, bully these guys or intimidate them. But you're not going to intimidate Barr and Durham, okay? Not weasels like Dan Jones and Fusion GPS. These guys are punks. Durham will spit these guys up and chew them out, and Barr will laugh at them. So these guys are morons. And I do hope that both Dan Jones and Confusion GPS, Frisch and Simpson, do spend some time in the lockup. They certainly should for their role in the coup. Spreading the lies. A lot of people are asking why Durham has not interviewed Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Strzok, and McCabe. Gee, he must not be taking it seriously. He hasn't interviewed those guys yet. Let me tell you what, my friends. John Durham probably doesn't need to interview Comey, Strzok. First of all, he knows they're going to lie to him, okay? Probably. He's not going to learn anything new. I don't think he needs to interview Durham and Comey and McCabe and Strzok. He's got all their damn emails. He's got all their phone calls. He's got probably anything he wants from these guys. He's also got Mr. Baker, who knows everything about all these guys. Remember, Mr. Baker was the general counsel to Comey. Everything these guys know, he knows, probably. And, of course, he's got Mike Rogers on the intelligence side. Everything that Brennan knows, Rogers knows, and probably more. And then he's got this other guy, I forget his name, the guy who was putting up a fight in the Justice Department and wanting to go along with all this. He's got that guy, too. I forget his name. But my guess is that Durham has got enough documents, first-hand witness testimony, guys who have turned, phone calls, emails, texts. He's got enough probably that he doesn't need to talk to Brennan, Clapper, Comey. And when you interview people a lot of times and their lawyers are there, you kind of give up some of your case because now they kind of know where what the things that you're talking about, asking about. Sometimes it's better to leave them completely in the dark and then just one day drop indictment on them. And then the first time they see your face or answer your questions, it's in front of a grand jury. And that's the first time their lawyer has seen the questions or the questioners. So it's probably a good strategy by Durham. I think it's very likely that he'll never interview any of these guys until he gets them in front of a grand jury. And, so we will see. But I'm not at all concerned about that at all. I understand it completely. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.